What in tarnation?
I meant to do that.
Howdy folks, this is Apple Geek, and we are quickly approaching the end of the final season. This is Season 9, Episode 22. And one of my close friends told me on this one, crank up the spoiler avoidance to 11 for this one. Fortunately, that hasn't been a problem. I've really just been too busy with other things to really be seeing much pony stuff, so I am still spoiler-free on everything remaining this season. So I have no idea what's actually coming in this episode. I have a sneaking suspicion that I might be getting something on my wish list, but we'll just have to watch and see, because I really have no idea. So, without further ado, episode 22, starting now.
I can't believe we're going to the
CMC episode?
Fair.
Appaloosa County Fair.
Shows, carnival rides, and all kinds of food on a stick. Speaking of food, did you pack snacks for the train? For there and back. And our train tickets are all set.
Okay, I did not expect another CMC episode.
And I've got our whole itinerary planned. Are you sure you're not Twilight Sister?
Oh!
The planning has all come down to this. All we have to do now is wait for our chaperone to get here.
Chaperone being...
So when's Rainbow Dash coming?
Oh, Rainbow Dash. I was gonna guess Big Mac.
I don't suppose
Oh.
it's rarity.
Oh no.
We spent all this time planning a trip and none of us asked any pony to take us?
Forgot the most critical detail.
Every other part of the trip was planned really
Oh. Oh. That was chart abuse. Okay. Well, it's not necessarily what I thought it was going to be here, so I have no idea where this is going now, because I did not expect another CMC episode at all. But Appaloosa Fair, and that everything, you know, a lot of food on a stick. This reminds me of the Minnesota State Fair. Let's see where we go with this. I don't know.
We really did think of everything, except finding some pony to take us, and the fair is
So
on
who are you
today.
gonna find?
I'm sorry, darlings, but I can't possibly go
Only
to
one day
Appaloosa.
fair?
I
Oh.
promised to deliver a new design to Fancy Pants for his Monocle and Top Hat Appreciation Society soiree.
On top hat appreciation.
Tomorrow?
Well, I could.
Oh.
You learn as you get older how
Growing
important
up
it
is
to
hard
keep
to
your
do.
promises, especially when running a business.
Maybe we
Aw.
should just go by ourselves?
What?
Eh?
Oh, my dear, no!
No.
Appaloosa is far too long a train ride for young foals without accompaniment. You could end up in the wrong place entirely.
Why don't you see if Rainbow Dash is free?
Sorry, but
no.
I just heard from Spitfire
Wonderbolts.
that a whole bunch of storm clouds got loose from the Cloud Factory, and she needs every Wonderbolt to
Oops.
help bust them.
Oh.
Come on, Rainbow Dash. We won't miss one pony, and we really want to go to the fair.
Aww.
Apparently, we're too young to go alone.
Oh, the pouty face!
Young ponies like
That's
you
gonna be a
get
gif, I
lost
think.
and never find your way back. But I still can't go. Being a Wonderbolt isn't just about showing off. It's also a responsibility. You'll understand when you get older.
She's not
sure I'll
wrong.
Find somebody else to take you.
Applejack?
I wish I could, Sugar Cube.
What is
but
that
Big
soup?
Mac's not feeling well today.
Oh, Big Mac's.
But Big
Okay.
Mac's old enough to take care of himself.
Oh.
We'd all have so much fun together.
Sometimes
These
taking
pouty
care of some
faces.
pony is more important than having fun.
Wow, he does not look good at all.
Speaking of which, don't you even think about trying to go without a grown pony there to take care of
Aw.
you. You could end up in hot water, or worse.
We
Oh, boy.
know. The fair
So,
could be over before we find some pony to take us.
who are you gonna
Then
find?
we thought of you, since the fair will be full of all sorts of animals and creatures.
Fluttershy? Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Twilight has an important magical research project, and she's asked for my help.
Eh?
I guess that means Twilight's
I'm
busy
intrigued by
too.
that.
I'm afraid I am. Star Swirl sent me this enchanted flower and it isn't doing well. If I figure out its magical properties, maybe we can save it.
Oh.
So that's a no on going with us
These
to the fair?
faces!
I asked Applejack, Rainbow
I love these faces.
and Rarity, and none of them can come. And
Oh.
everyone made it clear we're too young to go on our own.
Oh, definitely.
Okay,
You could take
Pinkie
the wrong
Pie?
train, or miss your stop.
Or get lost in a strange town and end up in a dangerous situation with no pony to help you.
We know.
We know.
I know it's hard, but sometimes you just can't do what you want.
All the memes from this
Pretty
episode,
sure
I
if
swear.
you wanted to go to the fair, you could.
Sure, grown-ups can do a lot of things that foals can't. But there's plenty
Wait
you
a
can't
minute.
do either. Like right now, I can't find a single reference to this flower.
None of the birds or insects I've talked to have heard of it either.
That reminds me of the flower from
Looking
Beauty
at
and the
Shakespeare
Beast.
Evergreen's Tome of Flora and Fauna.
That book's pretty out of date, but it might be worth a try.
I think there's a copy in the library filed under discontinued but still potentially useful ancient texts.
That's a
One
category?
of the hit them with a slight chance of practical applications.
Aww.
I guess this flower is the most interesting thing
Oh,
we're gonna
they're
see
good.
today.
No, no,
Count
no!
Twilight struggled to remember.
It's gonna make them
the night of
grown
the
up.
books. I bet
Oh,
Equestria is in Appaloosa right now. Every pony but us.
oh, just
I wish we didn't have to wait to grow
come
up.
on, make it happen. Make it.
All at once. Then we know everything we need to get to the fair and back with no problem. I just wish we were as old as our sisters. Then no pony could tell us what to do, and we'd be able to take care of ourselves. Hey, Sweetie Bow, why's your face all lit up?
Oh, this is gonna. Yes! 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 Yes!
Do you know what this means? We can go to the fair!
Wow!
I brought the tickets! We've gotta hurry if we're gonna make the train. I think we'll be fine. Check out how fast we're going.
Got longer legs.
You're not kidding. I don't know how much of this my scooter can take.
Oh, yeah, you've kind of outgrown the scooter.
And no pony yelled at us to slow down even more.
And let me guess, School still can't fly.
It's great.
Oh. I'm shaking right now, and it's not just the Red Bull, I'm sure.
We made it. Of course we did. We're grown-up ponies now. We can do anything. Worries Twilight and the others had don't apply anymore because we're big, and being big is all it takes.
And with maturity comes responsibility. Song!
But look at us now, we must be 90 feet tall. Don't have to worry about making mistakes because
How is no pony questioning this?
takes a tiny twist of fate brought on this big change. Give me room, gotta zoom. I've got plans to arrange. Can do what I want, be it run, trot, or traipse. 'Cause being big is all it takes. Being big isn't just a size. At bedtime we don't even have to close our eyes. We're in control.
There are consequences to that, I'm just saying.
'Cause being big is all it takes.
All the fan art, oh my word. I just,
Stepping out, growing up, making moves of my own. You can't tell me no, there's no place I can't go. Mountain cities, jungles, or lakes. 'Cause being big is all it takes. Being big isn't just a size. We'll show you our
all the rides.
oh so
Graduation.
control now for goodness
Movie directors? Sure, why not?
'Cause being big
What?
is all it takes.
For okay.
What's next, 'cause that's for me to decide.
Aw.
We know how we'd all
That's gonna make you sick.
and what we ain't tried. Facts don't matter now, 'cause it's not what we know. We can win any argument with because I say so.
Oh, oh, hi, Twist. Faceplant. What? Wow. And they're gonna find out it's not quite all it's cracked up to be.
I think I ate too many snacks.
This doesn't look like Appaloosa.
That's because it isn't.
Oops. Is it this creepy
You all
conductor guy again?
Dad?
Or ticket pony?
Hello? Do you think we got on the wrong train?
I thought trains just took you where you wanted to go.
Yep, it's him again.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but you three must not travel much. This is Hayes
Not really.
Junction. The train to Appaloosa isn't for a few hours.
Oops.
Or you could set off on hoof. It's treacherous. And
Oh, no.
confusing, unfit for the young or timid. Yeah, but you three are grown-ups. You'll be fine. Yeah, I'll write down some directions.
Maybe we should wait for the train.
And miss the fair?
Yeah, they're gonna go for it.
Wrong place, which is exactly what we were warned about. And what if we can't follow the directions?
Come on. We
Okay.
didn't come all this way for nothing. Besides, I've been through a swamp as a young pony. As a grown-up, it'll be a snail. Grown-ups always know the way.
Because being
Yeah, we
big
remember
is
how well
all
that
it
worked out.
takes.
What the? And the asthma inhaler?
I've got kind of a throat thing.
Apparently. Okay. That's not a rock. That... Oh! Whoa! Oh! That looked painful! That's quicksand. And you just lost the map.
Sweetie-Belle, are you sure this is the right way?
Oh no, now they've got... Why does that branch look like a hand? And they've gotten separated. Oh.
Don't do that!
Girls?
Oh.
Maybe we should head back to the station.
Which way is the
Not sure
station?
We can. I think we're lost.
You think?
Just like Twilight and the others said. Well, where were you when I was feeding and caring for him?
What?
Ah! Wild swamp ponies!
What is...
We're not wild swamp ponies. We're just grown-ups.
that hairstyle.
And we are definitely not lost.
Wanna bet?
Okay, but that swamp is pretty confusing if you're not from around here. I'm Spur, and this is Biscuit.
What's in the box?
Nice to meet you, but we're not confused. We're just exploring new ways to Appaloosa.
Sure.
That's where we're going.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Which is it?
Those freckles!
Biscuit thinks he can just take Floofy here to the fair.
Floofy?
Why not? It's just up the road, and Bloofy's my pet
Bloofy.
too.
Since when? Floofy's never even seen a crowd, which you'd know if you ever took care of him.
What is it?
Did you ever think meeting all those ponies might be good
I wanna know
for
what
him?
this is.
He seems okay meeting us.
See? They're grown-ups, and they get it. Bloofy should totally come to the fair with me, right?
Y'all don't really think that, do ya?
Hold on. Us grown-ups need to confer. What do you girls think?
If they go to the fair, we can tag along. And Spur probably should cheer Bloofy. I mean, that's something a grown-up would say, right?
As grown-up ponies, we think you should share Bloofy and let Biscuit take him to the fair.
That is some quality grown-up advice.
Aw. You're getting involved in things you know nothing about.
Around anything that exciting. What if something goes wrong?
We're headed to the fair too. Since we're such great advice givers, feel free to ask us for more.
I don't know what that thing is, but I'm thinking it's gonna terrorize the fair when it gets out. Oh, they made it. And Ursamine and Bear. Trouble shoes! Aww. Those faces! Oh no.
Well, my goodness, what an interesting critter. You should enter him in the animal showcase. You'd be sure to win most interesting creature.
Animals
There you go.
showcase? That's exactly what we should do.
That seems like a bad idea. What do you grown-ups think?
They're gone. Oh boy, and they're not being very responsible as adults now, are they? Oh, hey, Lyra and Bonbon. Aww. What is...
What happened to being able to ask your advice?
What is that on the
We
stick?
ran off the second we got here.
Aww.
Where's Biscuit and Bluefy?
It's like
That's
fried
why I
carrots on a
came to
stick.
find you.
Whoa.
It's one thing to
Oh,
bring
hey, Mrs.
Bluefy
Cake.
to the fair, but it's another to stick him in a showcase.
What's the big deal?
You're supposed to be sharing him.
Yeah, I'm with Biscuit. The showcase looks like fun. Sorry if I think taking care of Bluefy is more important than having fun.
Yeah.
He's just excited. He probably just wants to get out.
That's not gonna be a good thing. What the? That is adorable! Whatever it is.
Sure you're not just upset you have to share him?
Um,
What if you took a little break?
You mean, like, leave?
If sharing him is too hard, that might be the best thing. Take our word for it. We are grown-ups.
I don't know what Spur's so worried about. Bluefy and Biscuit are having fun.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Never say that! Never ever say that! Aw. So far so good, but... yeah... uh-oh. Oh no!
Me and my big grown-up mouth.
Uh-huh. What is that, a Tasmanian devil? Dog thing? I don't know what this is. Wait, that's the Wizard of Oz pony!
Your situation with no grown pony to help us?
Nice reference.
I think we're
Where's the cow?
ponies that need to be helping today.
Bluefy, treats, treats, treats. Who wants a treat?
Oh. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, she can teleport?
You now!
Wow. Don't just leave him.
I hope you're right about the girls coming here.
Well, once we read Shadetail Evergreen's warning that the flower grants wishes, it wasn't a stretch to think they wished themselves to the fair. It's all they were talking about.
A little bit more than that, but...
Maybe since we told them they were too young to come, they wished to become grown-ups, then came here and caused some kind of trouble that led to a town-wide panic.
That's like Pinky level insight. What the heck?
Or that.
Oh, thank goodness. I know you're not gonna believe it, but it's me, April Bloom.
No.
We kinda got turned into grown-ups.
And we thought we could take the train here since we were old enough, but we ended up in the wrong place just like you said we would.
And got lost, just like you said we would. Then we met these folks who led us to the fair, and we tried to give them some grown-up style advice, but it turned their pet in a tornado that not destroyed the whole town.
Well then.
Goodness, a whirling monk tooth. They are very rare and just the cutest little things when they're not excited.
Aw. That they are.
This one's excited.
Yeah.
How do we calm them down? When they're young, a monk creature forms a tight bond with its caretaker. They're the only ones who can get them to stop spinning.
And...
Spur's the one who really took care of Bluefy. We have to find her.
You all go look for Spur. Fluttershy and I will do our best to keep every pony here safe.
Nice. Oh. There's Spur. Oh, that was quick.
I'm so sorry, Spur. You knew what was best for him all along.
And even though we seem like grown-ups, you were way more responsible than us.
What do you mean, seem like grown-ups?
We don't have time to explain.
Yeah,
right now,
explain
we have
later.
to stop this, and you're the only one who can do it.
How? I'll show you. He mostly just needs to see you. Hey there, Bluefy Boo. It's okay.
Oh.
How did you know
That blue pony in the
After
background.
years of experience with animals, I picked up a few things.
Yeah. Experience.
One thing's for sure. Bluefy definitely earned the most interesting creature prize.
I'm sorry I didn't listen to you.
We all are.
I guess grown-ups aren't always perfect.
They sure aren't. But young foals pretending to be grown-ups are even less so.
Uh-oh.
What do you mean?
There's only one petal left. But I think the three of you know what to wish for. And I'm pretty sure Star Swirl won't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Wish we were fools again.
Nice. Back the way they should be.
Hold on. You three are actually younger than us?
The flower turned us into grown-ups, so we figured we could do whatever we wanted, but I guess that's not exactly true.
We did everything real grown-ups told us not to and caused all kinds of trouble. And things could have been a lot worse. I guess we were pretty selfish.
I'm glad you learned something. That's what growing up is. Which is why you probably shouldn't skip any of it.
Oh.
I know we didn't make the best impression, but we sure would like to visit you and Bluefy someday.
I guess that'd be okay, on one condition. You get a real grown-up to bring you.
Deal!
Being big is all it takes. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to check those voice credits. That was a great episode. Really great episode. Completely unexpected, but well then. Allow me to collect my thoughts on this. I'll be right back. Stay tuned. Well, I really didn't expect to see another CMC episode this season. The end of the season here is just full of all kinds of crazy surprises and twists and turns, just like that Daring Do episode that came out of nowhere. But I especially thought it was strange getting another CMC episode since we had one just earlier this season called The Last Crusade. Makes me wonder if something happened, went a little haywire or something in terms of the episode production order, but it honestly doesn't really matter. All that matters is that this was a great CMC episode, and a great episode overall, in what is flat out one of the best seasons this show has ever had. Now, ever since Crusaders of the Lost Mark, I have wanted to be able to see the CMCs get the opportunity to go out on their own, travel the world to help others beyond just Ponyville. Obviously, there's some logistical issues with that because of the fact that they are so young. And, of course, I basically already got that wish kind of fulfilled because they got to go visit Mount Eris and help Terramar deal with his family separation issue. However, they technically were being chaperoned by and supervised by Twilight at that point. Now we finally got to see what things would actually be like if they were to go out traveling all on their own. Now, the flip side is here they weren't actually, dealing with a cutie mark problem or anything, but it was still fun to see them attempt to deal with the grown-up challenges that would face them while they're out on their own like this. And actually it was kind of a refreshing change seeing them out on an adventure that really had nothing to do with cutie marks for once. I mean, I think we've had those before, but it's just, something a little bit different. So it's cool to see. Now, I never expected to see them actually grown up in the show like this, at least in this way. So that was it was really a special treat. No joke. I felt like I was pretty darn close to like full on hyperventilating when that was all happening. No, I figured if anything we would get maybe an epilogue at the end of the series, and we may still yet see, but something that would just show like kind of what happened to a lot of these characters that we've grown to love all these years. See kind of like how things turned out for them down the road a ways. But it honestly makes sense that something like this would happen in this manner given the right opportunity, like say a magical wish granting flower. And, it makes sense for the CMCs to do what they did after falling into the wish unexpectedly, because they certainly are adventurous, and they have a long history of going to great lengths to accomplish their goals. I just gotta say, I find it a little hard to fault them for actually running off the way that they did. I mean, there certainly was some fault there, but, in all fairness, they were left unsupervised, first of all. And honestly, they, it wasn't like they knew what the flower was going to do and actually wished to go out onto this. They made a wish in passing, just like a lot of kids, like we all do at some point. We all wish for things. So, they never expected it to actually come true. And when it happened, it's like, well, we got to do something with this. And now, of course, they really should have known better than to simply run off and leave town without telling any of their families, because once it was discovered that they were missing, obviously their families would have all been worried sick. That said, I can kind of understand why they did it, because quite honestly, their excitement was overriding most any kind of rational thought at that point. And as far as they were concerned, they're now adults and don't need to ask permission anymore to do the things that they want to do. And they were focused solely on finally getting to do what they wanted on their own. So, again, that does not excuse what they did. I'm just saying I kind of empathize with the situation. I don't know that I would have done anything differently than they would have in that same situation. Fortunately, I'll never have to worry about that, because that'll never happen. And I'm already adult anyway, but you know what I mean. Moving on. Most kids, at some point or another in their young lives, wish that they were older or bigger, and thus able to do all the cool things, asterisk, that grown-ups get to do, blissfully unaware of all the adult responsibilities that come with the territory. They can only see things that are all the things that grown-ups get to do that appear to be fun, and frequently get told that they aren't allowed to do many of the things that they want to do themselves, which only adds to the desire to become an adult much more quickly, so they can do those things. What they fail to realize is that they're often being told they can't do those things because the adults understand the potential dangers and other pitfalls that they could face, and are trying their best to protect them, the children, from harm until they're mature enough to handle these situations on their own. Adults, of course, aren't perfect, and we're always learning new things ourselves, and will continue doing so until the day we die. But we have had the advantage, at least, of many years of personal life experience that give us insights into the world around us that children lack. As you get older, one thing that you come to realize is that the more you learn, the more you know, the more you realize just how much you don't actually know about the world around you. Now, in this story, the CMCs wanted to go to the fair, which by itself shouldn't have been much of a problem. And they actually did very well in making their own preparations for the trip. They had it all planned out with charts, and lists. They packed all the snacks for themselves, even got the train tickets. The fact that they got that far honestly shows some pretty good maturity on their part, which is commendable. Of course, they kind of forgot the most significant detail, namely lining up a chaperone for the trip. But, that's kind of beside the point I'm making here. That's more of an oversight, not so much a, maturity thing. In regards to not knowing what they didn't know, they made some critical mistakes here. The first big mistake is that they made a bad assumption about how the railroad system works. They assume that the train just automatically takes you wherever you want to go as long as you buy tickets, and that obviously is not how it works. That's not how any of this works. This brings into question whether the tickets they purchased were even the right ones. But even assuming that they were, they ended up getting on the wrong train, and because they were so excited and in such a rush, they just threw the tickets at the conductor on the way onto the train just as it was pulling out of the station, not even giving him a chance to tell them that they might have been on the wrong train. You know, in the past, they've always just ridden the train with a chaperone of some kind, and thus didn't have to worry about how details like train schedules work. And yes, there was that one case where they actually rode the train to the Crystal Empire without adult supervision, but technically Spike was handling the details of that trip, and they were just along for the ride, so that wasn't really any different than having an adult chaperone anyway, so from their perspective. Another mistake they made was to give any credence to the warnings from the adults about the dangers of getting lost. You know, in and around Ponyville, obviously they're pretty much always on familiar territory without any real chance of getting lost, at least as long as they don't wander too far into the depths of the Everfree Forest or something like that. Beyond that, they're pretty much always supervised when traveling to other parts of Equestria, and thus likely don't have much experience when navigating unfamiliar terrain. Even down at Mount Eris, they were effectively being escorted around and supervised by either Twilight or other older hippogriffs, so there really wasn't too much concern there. But here, they ended up at the wrong train station in the middle of nowhere with no idea where they were at or where to go or really what to do at all. It was one of those things. They didn't think about the possibility of that going wrong, so they didn't have any plan. And then they made a bad situation even worse by deciding to venture out on their own into an unfamiliar and potentially quite dangerous forest, again, without any real plan, any kind of a fallback of any sort. I could pretty much immediately tell that they were going to get lost out there and then not even have any idea how to get back to the train station. Fortunately, it ended up working out as they managed to stumble onto a road and some other ponies that took them the rest of the way to Appaloosa, but honestly, they just kind of got lucky at that point. You know, and these mistakes were made because they seemed to be under the impression that just because they were big, they shouldn't be able to easily get lost or be scared of the forest or any such thing. You know, again, they didn't know what they didn't know, and they didn't understand exactly why adults are better suited to handle these kinds of situations, at least typically. Granted, Applebloom did reference the time when she set out on her own with a delivery cart, you know, back in Some Pony to Watch Over Me, so technically she did at least have a little bit of relevant experience, and, you know, and she honestly did pretty well on for most of that trip. But if I remember correctly, I didn't actually go back and rewatch the episode, but I think it was a route that she had taken before with other family members, so it wasn't necessarily completely unfamiliar territory. But in the end, she still ended up having to get saved by Applejack from that Chimera, so wasn't exactly the best amount of experience to be referencing there. Oh, and then they also got lost when they wandered off from into the forest from Appaloosa a few years ago, at which point they encountered troubleshoots. So, you know, that ended up working out at the end too, but given that they've run into this problem before, they really should have thought twice about venturing into this strange forest this time around. At least this time they had the advantage of the map, at least for a little while until they lost it. But they didn't even know for sure that the map was actually accurate, and we're just taking that crazy Ticketmaster pony's word for it. But no, being big isn't what makes adults more able to handle a situation like that. Rather, it's the... Well, granted, you know, physical size does have some advantages in certain cases, but that alone is not the key thing. It's the life experience that they've gained along the way to adulthood that allows them to more fully assess the situation and determine a prudent course of action. You know, and varying levels of experience can lead to different decisions and outcomes as well. You know, some adults would have been able to navigate a forest like that without any issue, or at least if had the necessary experience and skills to deal with most any situation that they might potentially encounter. Others, like myself, likely would have admitted our own limitations and decided to just wait for the next train rather than potentially getting lost or, even worse, hurt out in the wilderness. Sometimes experience comes in the form of simply admitting your own lack of experience in a certain area and thus choosing not to take unnecessary risks. Again, this ties back to becoming more aware of just how much you don't actually know. And to be fair, there are some adults out there who likely would have done no better than the CMCs actually did, because they're overconfident and recklessly charge into things without really thinking things through well or formulating a proper plan. You know, I mean, adults are certainly not perfect, and we come in all shapes and sizes and forms, you know, varying levels of experience and maturity of our own. Yeah, back to the CMCs. We get so after all that, we get to the real test of their maturity, which is giving advice to some teenagers. You know, now thinking back, the CMCs have actually given a lot of good, effective advice to a lot of different ponies, both others their own age and adults as well. However, that's largely been focused on a specific subject matter, namely the interpretation of one's special talent, which is their own special talent. So that's a little bit different of a situation. They're naturally gifted at that. Also, let's be honest, they made a lot of mistakes along the way while trying to get their own cutie marks or help others find theirs. And, you know, they've learned a lot of hard lessons along the way, so that makes them, you know, much more experienced on that particular subject matter, and thus can speak more from a position of authority on that. General parental advice is a whole different thing, and that's what they were getting into in this story. You know, they've dreamed about being able to tell, you know, younger ponies what to do, and, you know, just like they kind of get bossed around by the adults and stuff. And, you know, again, not realizing the life experience that factors into such instructions, they proceeded to give terrible advice to Spur and Biscuit based on several faulty assumptions, and just, you know, it's like, well, this is something an adult would say, right? So yeah, it must be good advice to give. Yeah, sure. You know, had they been thinking about the well-being of Spur, Biscuit, and most importantly, Bluefy, they would have asked a whole lot more questions about or any questions at all, pretty much, about the dispute between the two over this creature, so they could have better understood the situation and advised accordingly. Instead, their immaturity showed through, and because they were focused too much on just trying to get to the fair to enjoy themselves, they ended up giving advice that just allowed them to actually get led to the fair. Because, keep in mind, yeah, they found a road, but they still had no idea where they were at or where Appaloosa was, so they could have still gone down that road a different direction or something. They still needed somebody to show them the way to the fair. So, kind of made sense that it's like, well, yeah, of course we want to go to the fair. That way they get there themselves. Now, the CMCs also failed to realize that by getting involved the way that they did there, they were assuming at least partial responsibility for the teens and their pet. Furthermore, they told Spur and Biscuit that if they needed any more adult advice, they could just ask. But then, after they arrived at the fair, they just took off to enjoy the snacks and rides, thus shirking the responsibilities they had unknowingly assumed. Then later on, they did finally get involved again, only to once again dish out some bad advice, this time suggesting that Spur just leave as she couldn't stand to share Bluefy with Biscuit. Yeah, I don't know why they possibly thought that could be a good idea, especially because, once again, they never even bothered to get any backstory on this creature or Spur's level of involvement with it, let alone find out what kind of a creature it even was and what dangers it may pose. You know, given their past experiences with creatures like the cockatrice in the Everfree Forest, you know, they should have really known better than to be so unconcerned about a strange creature that they'd never even seen before. Of course, they did realize their mistake once Bluefy basically turned into a Tasmanian devil, but it was a little too late at that point. Fortunately, Twilight and Fluttershy arrived in time to help resolve that situation. Yeah, suffice it to say, mistakes were made. I do, however, commend them greatly for sticking around and trying to fix things rather than just running away or trying to shift blame or anything like that, which really does show some good maturity on their part. You know, they knew that they were responsible for the mess, and they wanted to try and help fix the problem. And that's certainly in line with their characters. I mean, they never wanted to see anyone get hurt, and I mean, they're all about helping other ponies. They've been doing it for all this time, trying to help others, you know, figure out their special talents and stuff. You know, they never intended to cause any harm like this. And, oh, also, you know, I gotta say, I was, in their efforts to try and resolve the situation, I was especially impressed with Sweetie Belle's sudden ability to teleport, not just herself, but also a passenger who she was trying to save from the tornado. I mean, I was blown away both by her willingness to put herself in harm's way, not even knowing if that was going to work because it was the first time she'd done it, but then just the fact that she even did that. You know, Sweetie Belle's magic is obviously a lot stronger as an adult, and she actually pulled off her first teleport with a passenger better than Twilight did. Because the first time Twilight did it with Spike, he got a little bit singed along the way. Didn't go very well. That said, despite having increased power levels and thus the ability to pull off a higher level spell like that, her inexperience still showed because she ended up teleporting herself inside a stack of hay bales, which I'm sure wasn't exactly what she planned to do. Once again, kind of charging into things with only half an idea, not really a solid plan. And, you know, this is really just the perfect example of the whole problem with the CMC's mindset in this episode. Just because you have the ability to do something doesn't mean you have the proper knowledge and experience to do it properly, or even to determine if it's a good idea to even do it. This was reflected even in decisions such as, you know, eating a whole bunch of junk food, which caused Scootaloo to get sick. Just because you're an adult and can therefore eat all the junk food you want, because there's nobody to tell you you can't, doesn't mean it's a good idea. So, yeah, just overall common theme here that the CMCs were not really picking up on at first. But fortunately now, they've gained some rather unique life experience here at a very young age, where they found out just what it would be like to be adults and realized they're not quite ready for it just yet. Just like how they learned that they shouldn't need to rush into getting their cutie marks, they should now realize there's no need to rush into becoming an adult either. You know, they'll become real adults soon enough and be able to enjoy all the privileges and perks and everything that come along with that. But this time with the benefit of all the life experience they'll have gained along the way that will better equip them to handle the responsibilities that they will also have. Oh, and just a side note a little bit here, you know, I love these new characters, you know, Spur and Biscuit, especially Spur, who for some reason looks like an odd fusion of Applejack and Cozy Glow, which is kind of horrifying on one front, but you know, he's absolutely adorable. I really want a Spur plushie now, actually. So I don't know if I'll get one of those or not, but we'll see. Anyway, aside from Biscuit making, you know, obviously some bad choices about taking Bluefy to the fair, they didn't really do a whole lot seriously wrong here. And in fact, I was really impressed with Spur's behavior in this case. You know, she was trying her best to impress upon the adult CMCs that Bluefy wouldn't cope well in such a noisy, exciting environment, but they ended up enabling Biscuit to get his way and take Bluefy anyway. Now, perhaps she should have been a bit more forceful on the subject and, you know, better explaining herself, but given that she had no idea that they weren't actually adults, I was actually rather impressed that she didn't cross a line where she ended up being disrespectful to her elders. Granted, the CMCs weren't their parents, so they didn't really have to actually listen to them, but I still like that Spur, you know, recognized them as authority figures and gave them the benefit of the doubt in regards to the, you know, wisdom that they were sharing. And, you know, I just gotta say, again, adults are not perfect. Far from it. And we don't always give the right advice or have the right experience to know how to handle a situation, even if we think we do. And sometimes we need to have our beliefs and advice challenged, even by someone younger than us, because we don't always get things right. And sometimes we need a younger perspective that we've kind of lost ourselves. You know, and even if we do have the right experience, sometimes we don't slow down enough to properly think things through and make the right decision. Sometimes we give advice with the best of intentions, only to see things go horribly wrong as a result, because we failed to realize all the possible ramifications. And of course, you can honestly never possibly know all the possible effects that your advice can have. But that's why we have to be very careful about handing out advice like that in the first place, because any advice we give inherently comes with a certain amount of responsibility. This is something that has honestly weighed pretty heavily on my mind many times while doing these commentaries. You know, there's a big difference between simply voicing an opinion, which is very easy to do, and actually speaking from a position of authority based on actual personal experience on a particular subject matter. To be perfectly honest, I've had a mix of both of these things in the various commentaries that I've done, and I fully admit that I don't always get things right. There's been a number of times where I wish I could go back and either clarify or sometimes even completely change what I've said about a certain episode of my videos, because I realized that I completely missed out on certain factors that really altered my perspective on something after the fact. You know, and I also sometimes agonize over the words that I've chosen, trying to make sure that I've considered all the angles as best as I can so that I can make sure to offer honest and fair assessments. Sometimes this leads to multiple rewrites of my notes and even re-recordings of my commentaries before I publish them. And even with all that, I know I don't always succeed in getting things right. I can only hope that most of the advice that I have given to all of you over these past few years has had a mostly positive effect on everyone who's listened and not made things worse for anyone. And you know, you all have been an inspiration to me these past few years, and I've done my best to give back by sharing what little wisdom I do have with you, with all of you. And many of you have let me know, either by comments on my videos or in-person meetings at conventions and such, you know, just how much my videos have positively influenced your lives. And that blows me away and gives me comfort in knowing that I've gotten at least a few things right. Sadly, there's just a few short episodes left of the show now, but I'm looking forward to ending this on a positive note for you all as best as I can. So stay tuned for my few remaining My Little Pony Friendship is Magic reactions coming to you very soon. Later.